Welcome to This Team is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. She is Lauren Brownlow. I am Demetri Ravanas. And Lauren, today, what is killing me is I think we might have to play the schedule game. I really don't want to, but boy, since Thursday, I have seen some wild swings in predictions for the Carolina Panthers 2024 season.
What, between like 0 and 8 wins?
So, to the Panthers' credit, I have not seen any lower than 3. So everybody agrees they are going to improve.
Ooh, optimism.
Wow. But I have seen everything between 3 and 11.
11?
Right. This is from
I need some
website.
of that.
Yeah, this is from a website called TWSN, and it's part of the USA Today network, but I really have not heard of it, right? But their factor is that the Panthers made improvements in terms of weapons, which was a key problem for Bryce last year. And like, you cannot dispute, this is by the numbers, the third easiest schedule in the NFL. Okay. And then just one last thing that I think is important, because to me, this is what sort of goes against like, yeah, but this isn't the Texans, right? This isn't the Jaguars of a couple of years ago, is that every year we have one of these teams that makes a major turnaround from picking in, the number 1 pick or a top 5 pick to being a division champion. I would argue the NFC South is a little bit lighter. The AFC South is lighter than the NFC South. And also, the Jaguars did it after back-to-back number 1 picks, and there might have been better pieces in place in Houston than there were in Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure. I mean, you already know, I think their O-line is better than the Panthers. Even still, I feel that way because, again,
agreed.
It was very much like a left tackle. It's like it still feels very much to me like through all of this, which it's not like they haven't made additions I'm excited about. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, it's like you went to the grocery store and you bought all this like cool shit, and then you get home and you're like, oh damn it, I forgot the milk.
That's right. You're baking a cake and you got everything but the flour.
Right. And it's like, oh, kind of important, kind of a foundational ingredient, or like, oh, can't not have the milk. Like, you have to have the left tackle. And like the fact that they don't seem to think there's an issue there is concerning for me.
Yeah, for sure. So the most popular prediction is 5-12. This is what NFL.com has. This is what Fox Sports has. This is what The Athletic has. It feels right? SI Sports Illustrated went the lowest at 3-14, and
who can argue?
I mean, like I said, it's still improvement. All right, so the optimism that seems attainable, right? Like that 11-6 at a trip to the playoffs, I just don't believe is possible for this team. David Newton of ESPN picked 8-9. And I don't think that is outside of the realm of possibility, but it is certainly outside of the realm of likely, I think.
Yeah, probably. I mean, look, the NFC South being what it is, although, there will be improvements, obviously, in the division, which, nowhere to go but up after last year.
Right.
But it's like, it's still going to be a friendly division for teams that are capable of winning football games. What we don't know yet is, are the Panthers one of them? Like, we just don't know that yet, because we saw a team last year play against teams that were terrible, right? And still managed to look as if they had never run an offense before.
Yeah, I mean, think about that Bears game, right? Like, that was the other terrible team in the league, and they looked so much better than the Panthers in that Thursday night game last year.
Yes. And yes. And by the way, I did love how people were like, wow, the Panthers didn't get any primetime games. I'm like, well, they probably got a lot of FCC,
right.
offensive content.
I was told snuff films couldn't be aired on network television.
Well, it's not, I guess Amazon's not network television, but still, they have to put too many warning labels on it, I guess. No, but I mean, obviously, like, I was glad. I wasn't sad about that. I was glad. So it's just, I don't know. We'll see how much play calling matters. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but I'm also saying that if you have, if Icky plays the way he did last year, I don't know how much of all the rest of it's going to matter.
The Panthers are one of only 2 teams that are underdogs in every single game with the early Vegas lines. The New England Patriots are the other one. Tell me if you thought you'd ever be in that boat alongside the Patriots.
Welcome, Drake May.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only one team, I believe it's the San Francisco 49ers, are favorites in every single game. Remember, right now, Vegas is just trying to move your money. It doesn't really say anything about the quality of the teams one way or the other. But if you look at this schedule, like, let's throw out the divisional games, right? We know the 6 teams, or the 6 games, rather, that they are going to get each and every year. I mean, they do draw some favorable stuff, right? The problem is they go to a lot of these plays. They have to go to Chicago. They have to go to Denver. They have to go to Las Vegas. Arizona is the only, like, immediately easily beatable team that is coming to Charlotte. That is what sort of gives
I was
me
going to say,
pause
it would
on
have
this
been a great
idea.
road game, because usually that's not so bad. But.
Yeah. I mean, like, listen, I think there's some fun road games on this schedule. It's just
fun for, like, destination. Like, if you're part of the Roaring Riot crew and you're going, it rules.
I mean, a season like this, though, and I compare it to, like, you know, like in college football, when you are consistently like a Mayo Bowl team and you have built up the roster, you have that one, like, this is the season. This is the season you're going to get to double-digit wins and be a part of the playoff conversation. The schedule still has to fall right in order to make those things happen. It feels like the Panthers' schedule, for the most part, fell wrong.
I was going to say, like, I think schedule is a far bigger deal in college football.
Absolutely.
And you would agree. For sure, than it is in pro football. And obviously there are way too many, there are so many more variables in college football, in that a lot of games are set like 15 years before they happen, which is so dumb. Like, sorry.
We learned during the pandemic, it can be done a week ahead of time.
Yeah. And we're like, okay, now we've seen this illusion shattered. Like, leave us alone. Okay. Like, stop with this, just schedule like normal people, you idiots. College basketball does it. Like, why can y'all not? It's so stupid, but whatever. It's fine. It matters because, like, half the time an NFL season starts and a team that looks like it would be terrible or was terrible the year before, hence the Panthers getting them the next year, is completely different. And half the time a team we think is good starts to hit the skids a little bit. And so I think it just matters, in my opinion, so much less in the NFL, because what we assume is going to happen for the most part isn't necessarily what does.
Right. There's also not as narrow a goal, or excuse me, not as wide of a gulf even within conferences between teams, right? Like, Alabama plays Vanderbilt this year. Does anyone think Vanderbilt has a fighting chance in that game? No.
By the way, I did see, I hopped on Twitter long enough to see a headline of Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher address the disparity that is in college football that is ruining it. And I think one of the first responses I saw was like, arsonist comes out against.
That's right.
I'm like, Nick Saban? Really? I mean, cool that he's like saying it, I guess, but also like,
I'm gonna flip-flop topics here because you mentioned the lack of primetime games. The Panthers have one guaranteed national audience game, and that is going to be when they go to Germany to take on the Giants. I would guess that
perfect time for a Panthers game, honestly.
Absolutely. Yes. Every game should kick off at 9:30, so you can go about your day very quickly. Yeah. I would guess that the Chiefs game is going to end up in the national window, just because, why not put on a Patrick Mahomes record-setting game if you have the chance to? Oh. But does it bother you at all that there are no primetime games?
I'm relieved.
Okay, let me ask this. Okay, I am too, to the extent that, like, I will always choose sleep over watching anything, really. But it does sort of tell you how quickly the shine is off of Bryce, even from a curiosity factor, doesn't it?
Right. I mean, for sure. But I just think, like, look, at a certain, like, there are not a lot of things in our country that are still genuinely merit-based. There really aren't. As much as people like to pretend, we both know that's not true.
Yeah.
But with the way the Panthers literally just, like, abused everyone's eyeballs last year in prime time, and the last couple, frankly, like, they have been really bad in prime time. Like, it's almost nice to see the NFL go, we're not doing that again, at least for 1 year. Like, you need a timeout. Yeah. And I'm relieved because, honestly, even though like it's not me doing it, I'm not responsible for the team that I root for. It's embarrassing. The way they look on primetime is embarrassing.
No, I understand that. And you know what I did after the schedule came out? I guess after this talking point of, primetime games, what does it say? Blah, blah, blah came out. I went back and I looked at the 2022 Jaguars schedule because that was the first, or I guess that would have been Trevor Lawrence's second season. They were also really bad in his first season. There was no expectation for that team. And the team got better and better as the year went along. And the only way they got primetime games was getting flexed in at the end of the year.
And eventually that can happen. And
exactly.
That way, if it happens, unless it's something like a Mahomes game, which I would be like, please no. If it happens, it'll be because there's interest in them now. And so I prefer it that way, quite frankly. Like I was relieved when I saw that. I was like, good, thank God.
Yeah, I mean, like I could see that last game against Atlanta being flexed to some sort of a primetime thing, just because, like, who knows what's going to happen with this division?
Who wants to win the least? It's always
exactly,
winning.
exactly. 6-11 might win you this division this year, as flawed as everybody seems to be. All right, I want to remind everybody that this week tickets go on sale for the first annual Sports Podcast Festival. It happens at the Rialto on August 24th. Ovius and Giglio, Hand in the Dirt, and our headliners, the Shutdown Fullcast, will be there. Lauren and I will be a part of the show as well. Tickets are available on eTix, $59 plus the eTix fees. 3 big shows. Please, please, please come out and make this a success. We are trying to make this a tradition for sports fans in the Triangle. The first ever Sports Podcast Festival presented by Breeze Through. Tickets on sale Saturday, May 25th. At eTix. It is a Saturday, right?
Sounds right.
I think that's right. The way you made your
that's right.
Face. Yeah, the way you did your face made me think, wait, did I just get the day of the week wrong?
I barely know. I mean, I know today's Monday, but if you asked me to name the number, I had to check.
Oh,
so that's why I was like, okay, yesterday's the 19th. Yes.
All right. And also do us a favor, go rate, review the show wherever it is you are getting this. And if you are not already subscribed, please do so on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, and then leave a comment or a review. That helps more people see and discover this team is killing us. Lauren Brownlow, let's talk about this tweet from ML Football. That points out that it will cost less to attend every Panthers game in person than it will to have all of the services necessary to watch them on television this year.
I mean, to be fair, if you're doing it that way, it will probably cost less because you're sitting in, Gastonia. Which, because listen, my uncle back in the day had PSLs and they were like in the 500. They were in the uppers. Okay, so I know that you don't see much there.
Was it? I want to say it was Green Bay a home game or a road game last year? Green Bay was a home game.
Home, yeah.
I want to say that was the game, and we know the extenuating circumstances with the Atlanta game at home with the storm and everything, right? And how low those tickets got. But I want to say you considered that 500 level for the Green Bay game for like $7 last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, so yeah, reasonably. I mean, just what does Prime cost a month? I'm not even sure off the top of my head, but like, I know our games. Where else are games? Are games on Peacock now?
The games will be on Paramount Plus.
Okay, that's Peacock, like I think that's like $9 a month.
Is that Venue getting? Is that going to be launched in time for football season? That would be where some games are. ESPN Plus will have, NFL Network. So NFL.com will have the Germany game.
NFL Network, okay. But see, and since I have DirecTV, whatever, like your subscription, whatever you've cut the cord to use as your cable, like that technically factors in. Although to be fair, like you can watch other teams on there,
right? So this was the other question I had. Like, is this just factoring in League Pass or not League Pass? I'm sorry, Sunday Ticket, because if you're just watching the Panthers, like you don't need Sunday Ticket. Because I'm guessing you live in North Carolina, maybe
well,
South
I'm
Carolina.
guessing I'm assuming they're only factoring in like ticket prices, and you're not factoring in things like parking and
so
food
I was
and
going to say,
alcohol.
clearly this does not include attending the Germany game, because just that
Well,
trip
that too.
alone.
I was gonna say, yeah, like that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, what did they say? All home games though, or did they say?
No, it's at every game. Let me put it up on the screen. Let me read it again to make sure I understand.
I'm like, I don't know, man. That math ain't mathing, because there are some expensive flights on that list too.
It costs it is only the cost of tickets. It says it costs $6.95 in total to attend every Carolina Panthers game this season on TickPick.
Okay, and that's fine, and I get what they're going for and all, but like, yeah, we still have to factor in the other costs. You have to factor in the cost of gas to drive to Charlotte, parking, your pain and suffering, which is immeasurable.
I was about to say, your pillow in your bed is not there waiting for you after a really embarrassing performance.
Right. You can't change the channel, for instance, either. You can't, if you want to get another drink of alcohol, it's probably going to cost you like $15.
That's one of the things that my son doesn't get about, because he really wants to attend live both college and pro games this year. And I keep telling him, like, buddy, if it's a blowout, like,
we're out. We're
I was like, the Chiefs and the Ravens are not waiting, like, just a flip away. Like, we're just locked into this one shitty game.
Yeah, you're like trapped in it. Exactly. Right. Whereas you could, I mean, to be fair, I stay trapped in it when they are playing anyway. Yeah. So I'm not, but they do, at least they do the live cut-ins when you're watching at home.
If it's something like the Jacksonville game last year, and also the second Buccaneers game where they just looked like they weren't even interested, then I'll tap out and just watch the 60-minute replay on NFL.com later. But for the most part, I'm with you. I'm locked in the whole way.
Well, you know how I am with it. A lot of times I would tape the Panthers games.
Yeah.
And I would literally just do anything else with my Sunday.
Just
anything else that made me happier, and then watch it and fast forward through it later that night.
Yeah, Mac and Bone, our friends down at WFNZ in Charlotte, have often told me that when I've done their show, that they are just happy that you have some sort of support system to go through the Panthers season with now.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that as well. Because my own son just continually roasts me about it. He's like, "Oh, mommy, are the Panthers bad again?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was telling him a story the other day. I'm like, "Last time the Panthers were good, honey, you were inside mommy's belly getting ready to come out."
True.
You learned a lot of bad words that season.
But certainly he has been alive when they have made the playoffs, like hopelessly made the playoffs.
I don't think so.
Made the playoffs. No?
Have they? Wow. Well, okay. They made it once after, right?
That's what I mean. Hopelessly made the playoffs. Like, they made it, and that was all anybody expected of.
Yeah. And that was it. And then that was all she wrote. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like a depressing make the playoffs. Yeah. Because that whole season was depressing.
All right. Let's wrap it up with some conversation. Lauren Brownlow, I don't really have a problem with hot take artists. I really don't. I think it is a skill all unto itself. If you are good at doing the over-the-top devil's advocate thing, right? But when it becomes so transparent, I feel like we've lost the thread a little bit here.
Sometimes I feel like, because we've seen so many people do it that are clearly operating in bad faith, I feel like sometimes we should just be willing to say to ourselves, hey, maybe this person's an actual idiot. You know?
Okay, that's fair. Like, I look at somebody like Nick Wright, like Colin Cowherd, that do the hot take thing that seem very... no, I wouldn't include Bayless in this. What I'm saying is the guys that do the hot take thing that are very aware that what they are doing is hot taking, and are shamelessly doing the hot taking thing. And, basically they look at it like a challenge for them. Can I come up with the argument on the other side of this? People like Skip Bayless, and let's come around now to Chris Sims, who we are talking about, I think are only looking at it from the standpoint of, if I yell loud enough, people will pay attention. Doesn't matter what I'm saying.
Look, Chris Sims, and I say this like not mockingly. I say this very sincerely. He took a lot of physical abuse on his body when he played professional football. So I always try to.
Didn't his spleen explode in a game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is unreal to think about that we were all just like, okay, cool. Like even on the broadcast, I remember they were like, yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Like, sorry, that sounds like a medical emergency. But regardless, like he took a lot. And so as I continue on my life journey of trying to find empathy and understanding with other people, I often do that with him. And I find myself just more feeling sorry for him than like being mad at him, if that makes sense.
At this time every year, Chris Sims, who, by the way, I believe it was after the spleen incident.
Yeah, he's had some takes, man.
Yeah, I believe it was after the spleen incident that, by the way, speaking of people that have some takes, John Gruden said that because the Buccaneers had Chris Sims, they felt fine passing on Aaron Rodgers in the 05 NFL draft.
Well, whoops.
Yeah. So this time every year, Chris Sims does his top 40 quarterbacks in the NFL. It is the peak of summer season football content, right? And this year, he ranks BryceYoung at number 34, which I got to be honest, Lauren, I think that's fair. I think
when I saw initially the number, I was like, yeah.
It makes sense, right? Like he didn't have a rookie season, regardless of how much of that is purely on him. The height, the frame is a valid concern if that's what the Panthers are rolling out there around him every year,
100%.
okay? So the 34 doesn't feel like a troll job, although I will remind everybody that last year's top 40, he had Jalen Hurts, who had just finished top 3 in MVP voting, had led his team to a Super Bowl. He had Jalen Hurts number 7. So the guy certainly loves to make sure everybody's looking at it, right?
And he certainly prefers he has a type. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to leave it at that and let it sit. He has a type.
Okay, I don't wholly agree. I think he has, when it comes to he has a type, I think he has certain guys of that ilk that he zeroes in on can never be what it is he believes
inside the type that we're both thinking of.
Yes, exactly. Okay. All right. So 34, that's not the troll job. Lauren Brownlow, quarterback number 33 on this list, one tick ahead of BryceYoung is Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he said this to me, and I was like, what exactly does he have to do to get people to go, he's not good?
Yeah.
Like, I'm genuinely asking.
Well, here's the thing that sort of, I think, gives the game away. And look, for all we know, they got rid of Kirk Cousins. Maybe Darnold is going to go into the season as the starter for the Vikings. I don't think so. My guess would be they're going to try and get J.J. McCarthy on the field as quickly as possible. But, okay, here's the write-up. And you tell me what it is.
Veteran, known quarterback, leader / mentor.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold. Okay. That's the guy I definitely want teaching my
That's definitely who I want my rookie learning from.
He needs to be taught still. My God.
Here is what Chris Sims wrote. Darnold can still be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
What do you mean still? When was he ever?
He still has starting caliber physical traits and a quick release. An A+ intermediate short game thrower. His athleticism is kind of eye-popping in the sense of how quick his feet are.
Okay.
He does run better than you think.
Oh, yes, deceptively fast. Check one off the vaguely racist stereotype.
That's right. Card. But he's been in bad situations that expose his mechanical flaws. Admittedly, he has been in bad situations, but if all of this
I don't think his flaws are just mechanical. I think his flaws are...
Yes, agreed. Because what I was going to say is if all this is true, especially the A+ short to intermediate passing game, he would have run away with the starting job in San Francisco last year. That is all they do.
Yeah. No, he makes poor... No, you know what his problem is? He sometimes has a little brain boo-boo and then just throws it to the wrong football team.
Yes, agreed.
Literally, like you look back at some of his throws and you're like, what was he actually looking at? And and sometimes you think to yourself, or I used to, Maybe he thought he was on the other team because it's as reasonable as anything else you can come up with.
Mark Sanchez, who by far has the most embarrassing quarterback play,
play, the butt fumble
in Jets history. Yes, the butt fumble. Still, I believe 10 out of 10 Jets fans would say they'd rather have Mark Sanchez.
Well,
peak Mark Sanchez than peak Sam Darnold.
Think about this from the Panthers fan perspective. As down as people were on Bryce, look, maybe not all of them. I'm not saying everyone. But I would guarantee you a majority of Panthers fans, if you ask them which they would rather have as their starting quarterback, would not say Sam Darnold.
No, agreed. Agreed completely.
We've seen enough. How have y'all all not seen enough?
I think there is something that Bryce is going to struggle with as long as he's in the NFL. And he's sometimes, like this season, there were times that he threw really crisp slant patterns. But Alabama didn't ask him to do it a lot. The Panthers didn't ask him to do it a lot. And the more that happens, the more I start to think this isn't bad coaching. This is about his comfort of seeing over the line. That's a very valid criticism.
Yes.
But I would still rather have Bryce because I have never seen Bryce just freeze and not know what to do in terms of getting outside the pocket to find someone to throw to. I've seen Darnold do that everywhere he has been.
You remember that stretch when he was a Panthers quarterback where he had all these rushing touchdowns. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, that's nice. And then he just stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, what? I said this about Bryce last year to Giglio, and Giglio was like really attacking that. That is not the compliment you think it is, but it's very similar to what Sims says about Sam Darnold. And what I would say about Bryce is he is more athletic than you think he is. That doesn't mean he is elite athletic.
And that's because of his size.
Not only because of his size, but because that's not what Alabama was asking him to do, right?
Well, also that, yeah.
But yes, I agree. The sneaky athletic. We found a new way to say sneaky athletic. It's
ridiculous. Yeah. I'm like, Bryce is breaking barriers. He's because it is accurate to say about him because he's so small. And so you don't necessarily, you think like, ooh, is he okay out there? Like, do his parents know he's playing? But, I mean, and I think like for me too, like, look, Sam Darnold.
Sometimes it's not always good to skip a grade for the child.
Exactly. But like the thing about it too is to me, Sam Darnold just symbolizes this larger fascination that not just Chris Sims, but all like NFL media, especially those of a certain persuasion, have over these like white quarterbacks who supposedly have all the tools and everything else. And we just keep them around for years and years and years. Doesn't Nathan Peterman still have a job? Is everyone drunk?
I don't think Peterman still has a job.
Well, but he did last year, and that was like 5 years after his like 6 interception game or whatever. Like, at what point do we go, we've seen enough here with white quarterbacks that have the skill set or whatever that's supposed to mean, and stop throwing out other quarterbacks that maybe don't adhere to our predetermined like molds of what a quarterback should be of both races, by the way, into the trash can? Why?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would argue that the exception that proves the rule to what you are saying is Baker Mayfield. Like, how many opportunities did he get to be in the quote unquote wrong system until he finally found something that worked in Tampa? And by the way, we're not even totally sold that it's going to work long term. We just know he had a good year last year.
But you know what? With Baker, I think I saw more there, even with him. I mean, and
that guy's not more athletic than you think he is. That dude is just athletic. Like, there is something to fall back on for that guy. There's more there. Yeah.
Right. And he would have enough moment. It was always with him. I think for him, it really is more of a thing of like, if he can get his mental straight, he'll be okay. And in a good situation, like he can't be the one carrying a bad O-line and bad receivers and all that. But if he has competent and bad coordinators, but if he has good versions of those around him, which he has for the first time ever, he could be okay because he didn't have those panic moments like you said about Sam Darnold. Really, like he would. I do remember one Panthers game where he got the ball batted down like 7 times, and I'm like, and then after the game he got pissed that people were asking about it, and I was like, dude. So really, with him, it's a matter of getting his mind right. We know he has the talent. We would even see glimpses of that before. It's just the teams were never able to do very much, and whatever. I think like with him, it's different than with a Sam Darnold but there's how many other quarterbacks can we name? I mean, there's so many. If we just like went through a list of, NFL starters and backups for the thing about how many chances the dude was given to like be a starter, and you're just like, why?
Let me ask you a question to wrap up here. So I agree with you that most Panthers fans would tell you they'd rather have Bryce now than the Sam Darnold they got. What do you think Jordan Jefferson would say? Because I would bet he would tell you he'd rather have Bryce right now than Sam Darnold as his quarterback.
Listen, and that's the thing. Like, I don't understand people that have watched Sam play very much in recent years. They go, you know what? He just needs he just needs to like find out what life after football is like for him. And I say that like as kindly as I can, or like what life is he needs to be a backup. Like it's baffling to me that that's their plan in Minnesota, supposedly. I guess, like you said, maybe they do want to get McCarthy out there sooner rather than later, but it's also like, okay, good luck with that, with your mentorship situation, whatever you want to call that. Like, is Sam Darnold like the worst quarterback I've ever seen? No, I've been a Panthers fan a long time. Okay, there are worse, but I mean, I don't. Of all the bad ones I've seen, like I wouldn't say he's the top 5 of the bad ones.